Are you going? Oh, the next one. It's been one of those days.
I want to welcome everybody to the 2024 Holiday Roadshow for the Quicksand Area FCS agents. And we are going to talk about saving money and some interest loans and things like that. So in your handout in the front part, these are some money-wise publications that we have, but they are a couple of years old, but the information is still good. So hopefully you all will go back and read all of it in full. But how many people has a budget for the holiday, for the Christmas holiday? Okay, how many people stay within that budget when it's time to, once you start spending, do you go over or do you stay within that budget? Some do both. So, but they are having more plans now to help you purchase items, and some of these newer options are buy now, pay later, and they're also known as point of sale loans. These can be through credit card companies, through particular retailers, or even on apps, and even on TV shows. They have like 5 easy payments to where you can do that. But the big question is it worth it? The buy now, pay later products are like a digital update of a layaway program. How many people remember the layaway program from years ago? How many people use the layaway program? So how many people wishes it was still here? So, because on the layaway, like at the stores in our area, there was no interest on them. But some of these point of interest or point of sale loans, they do carry interest on it, so you do have to be careful with that. But they're saying that this market is going to grow, especially with the Gen Z customers, and this means higher sales for retailers and higher spending for consumers, because many point of sale loans carry interest and fees. As with any decision to buy something, it's a good idea to ask yourself before you buy it. There's 2 things that you want to ask. 1, do I need this? And 2, is it worth the added expense to have it now, in case that you do have to add the added expense? Because like some credit card companies, it will give you 5 monthly payments of whatever to split up in 5 equal payments. But if you don't pay your credit card off each month, guess what? You have interest on that, and you're just paying more in the long run. But also with buy now, pay later or point of sale loans, individual purchases can be financed right from a retailer's website or at the store checkout. And this allows the customer to choose payment plans that break the purchases up into several payments. Some can be 3, 6, 12, or whatever amount it is. But the annual percentage rate for these loans can range from 0 for introductory offers to up to 30%. So you really need to ask yourself, do I really want to do this, or do I have the extra money to pay the interest if I'm not paying my credit card off at the end of the month? But the terms are often based on the size of the purchase and the customer's credit, which can also be determined with a soft or hard credit check. But remember, a soft credit check does not impact your credit score, but a hard credit check can. So you need to really think about that before you do all of these. But there are some good and bad in these buy now, pay later. These financial products can be a convenient way to pay for a big ticket item, especially if the rate offered is lower than your typical credit card or installment rate. And as with any loan, you should not consider it if you cannot afford the payments. Interest and fees can add up quickly. So if you are not able to make your monthly payments as is, don't add more on to yourself to where it's just going to build up, and you're put yourself in a hole that you can't dig out of. But also make sure that you are a cautious borrower. Know yourself and your capacity to pay it back before taking out any kind of loan. And remember, it is usually more cost effective to save up for something than to finance it. So maybe start in January. Have you a little bucket that you put all your excess change in, or that you pay yourself, and I say pay yourself, $5 a week. And that way you put it into that jug, container, whatever you want to put it in, and at the end of the year you have a little Christmas cash on hand where you've paid yourself over the year. What you put off paying for now will be due later, and this can affect how much money you have to spend on other things in the future. So that's like your electric bill, your medicines, things like that. And then, has anybody heard of the Use Less Stuff Day? It's actually coming up. It will be November 21st. I think it's the third Thursday of November. And back a few years ago, UK did have a challenge. But what the Use Less Stuff Day is a way to raise awareness of the mindless spending and increased waste generated during the holidays. So this is what that is for. How many people are guilty of useless spending? I think we all are to some degree. But many families across Kentucky have less to spend than they used to, because the price of groceries, the price of gas, everything has increased, and it increases. It's just the cost of living increases every year, but sometimes our paychecks don't increase to offset that. But it is reported that Americans discard 25% more trash from Thanksgiving to New Year's than any other time during the year. That 25% represents upwards of 25 million tons of garbage. All of that garbage is filled with single-use disposable plates, napkins, silverware, ribbon, and wrapping paper. How many people buy paper plates during the holiday? I'm guilty of it. I do it. Actually, we done it today. How many people buy tablecloths or napkins that are disposable? Here at the office, we have bought tablecloths that we can wash and reuse. It would be a smart idea to buy napkins that are cloth napkins at the end of the season, and buy up several and then use those instead of having the paper towels or the napkins to throw away. There are also some reusable paper towels that you can wash, and it looks like a roll of paper towels that you put on your paper towel holder that you just wash and then put it back on there. So you can do that also. Wrapping paper. How many people try to save their wrapping paper? I've known of somebody that have taken their time, just cutting the tape just to where they can reuse it, and they fold it back and reuse it next year. Now, I don't do that. I rip it right off. Or I do use a lot of gift bags, but I do reuse my gift bags. How many people reuses gift bags? How many people reuses bows? Ribbon and bows I reuse. I try to keep all of that I can. Kelsey, which she'll be talking here in a minute, she says that her mother doesn't throw nothing away, and she probably has bows that are older than she is. So, but she's saving money and saving the earth too in that. It is estimated that enough ribbon is wasted during the holiday season to tie a bow around the earth. That is approximately 38,000 miles. So that's a lot of ribbon being wasted. There are on the challenge, there are three main objectives, and the first is to help us use less in order to reduce environmental waste. The second is to help us spend wisely to reduce useless spending. And then the third is to highlight priceless activities to connect us in no-cost or low-cost ways. So some of these ideas today that we are talking about is how to use things that you already have, and not to go out and buy things that you don't have or don't need. But on some of the activities, don't put bows and ribbons on your packages. Just find a way to where I know you want it to look pretty, but does it necessarily have to look pretty? No. So, I mean, because they're just going to rip it open and see what's inside. And then pack a lunch. Instead of going out through the drive-through, pack a lunch and try to forego the drive-through several times a week. But there was a couple years ago the Take the Use Less Spend Wise Challenge, and hopefully they'll bring that back and we can do that again. So first up is it is Kelsey Sebastian from Breathitt County, but she works Perry County. But it's supposed to be Stacy Trent from Breathitt County, but she is under the weather today, so Kelsey's going to fill in for her.
Okay, so Stacy's projects are down here on the end, and they should be the first ones up in your book, maybe on page 10, but don't quote me on that. Okay, so she has 3 different art projects that she did. The first one will be the reversible snowman, okay, and you will see he is decorated very cutely. And so what you'll need is 3 different size, and actually hers look a little closer to 2 different size, but he's your own snowman, so you make your own creation, whatever you would like. You'll need 3 different pieces of wood, and then she's got a wooden base that she has just stained kind of in a walnut color. And then you'll need craft paint. She used white, black, and then orange. And then she's got some accessories. She's got some buttons she added here and at the top. She's got her things for her hat. She made him a little scarf. Again, it's just a piece of fabric she has folded over, nothing super fancy. And then she's got some extras, like I said. She has made a hat, and really the top part of it is a plastic cup like you would take mouthwash or water in the bathroom in, and she has just painted it black. And then she has added a piece of cardboard around the bottom, added a little holly and leaf on there. So you all know that we do this roadshow in a lot of different counties, and so sometimes things are worse for wear when we end up particular places. He is supposed to have a little stem glued on up here, so that when we turn it around in just a second, that is your pumpkin stem, and then that way, if it is the winter, that hole she's put through her hat, it will stay on there with the stem. But the hot glue has come a little loose, so just beware when you attach that. So again, what she's done first is she's painted both sides. So one side white, one side orange, which I'll show you in just a second. And then once that has dried, she has gone in, she's glued her buttons on for his shirt buttons and his eyes. She used a paint marker to go in with the detail for the mouth. And then this is just a little wooden piece that she has painted orange, which you will see in different sizes as we move on through her crafts. So if we spin it around, you will see the orange side. And again, this is not attached. She just knots it on there. The other things you will need, wooden dowels, which are what are in between here. She did mention that it was not as sturdy as she wanted, so she actually went back in with a screw in between there as well, just to make sure it was sturdy. And then she screwed it into the base as well. And then again, like we said, the only other thing you need besides the paint is just a little decor. So she's got some leaves here that she can add in for fall, and you can go around the base as well with those. But it really is just your own creation. And we think that it is adorable, and we hope that you enjoy that one as well. The next one is the snowman spoons. okay, which should be on the page right after that as well. And how many of you have wooden spoons at home? Okay, my mom used to always have wooden spoons. So that's what these are, okay? She's got 3 different wooden spoons, okay, and they're all decorated a little different. However, the beginning process is the same. So she has a utensil urn, okay, and she painted it black so that it matched, but you may be able to find one already black. And then she's got some greenery that she has put down in here, again with her holly to make it very festive, to keep these from moving around when she goes to put them back in there. So on the wooden spoons, first step, paint them all white, okay? We know our snowman needs to be white. And again, she has used that same craft paint. She's gone back in with the black to add their mouths and their eyes. And again, she's got the little wooden pieces that she's painted orange for their carrot noses, okay? Now, again, you can decorate each one however you'd like. So what she's done is she had some extra fabric. So she's tied some scarves around their necks in different colors. She has added earmuffs to this one with some fluffy yarn on the sides, and then she just bent a piece of metal so he looks like he really does have the earmuffs on, which are super cute. The ones with the hats, you'll see she did 2 different things, but again, it's just scrap fabric that she has glued together in the back and then made, this one's got a little decorative piece on the top that matches the scarf, and then this one she went back in with a little fuzzy yarn to make it look like it had a little bobble on the top there, okay? But then she's just placed them in there, and again, depending on how much greenery you put down in there, it's going to depend on how much give they have as well. So super simple. That'd be adorable for the countertop in the kitchen somewhere during the holiday season. Okay, and then her third craft, she was very ambitious. She kept with her snowman theme, okay? And so these can be a multitude of things. She has used spindles to make these, okay? And so again, you can see she's got different sizes, and there are a couple different sizes in the booklet as well. The ones in the booklet are actually, they have a rod in the bottom of them, so you could always leave a hole to do that, and they're stuck in the yard, okay? These, however, are tabletop ones, and again, she's gone in and painted those spindles white. And then on top of these, again, she's got a piece of cardboard to make the square brim of the hats, and then this top piece is just a square wooden block, okay? And she's painted those both black so that they match. Again, she's gone in with her craft paint and decor to add on there, and still use that scrap fabric to decorate them and make them have a cute little scarf. And I'm sure most of you all have a box of scrap fabric laying around, and if not, I'm sure Lisa has enough for everybody that she'll share. Okay? Yeah. Okay, so her recipe, they should have passed out to you, which is the cheese ball, mini cheese balls. And these have softened cream cheese, garlic powder, onion powder. You can add, once you mix your ingredients together, you can add either chopped bacon or chopped pecans on the outside. So what you'll do is you'll ball them all up, try to keep them fairly similar sized, and then in a separate dish you will have the chopped bacon or pecans, and then once you've chilled the balls a little bit, you'll roll the outside. She did not put pecans in these, she used bacon just in case anybody had any allergies today. Again, if you like both flavors, you could always mix the bacon in with your cheese ball mixture and then still roll the outside with pecans. But you can use pretzels just like we did today, so you can pick it up and have it mobile, or you can just have those presented on a nice platter and then have your crackers on the side as well. That is a quicker way for people to pick up an individual size serving to take on their plate versus having to get the knife and cut a big hunk of cheese ball, etc. So these stay beautiful because once that first person takes a scoop out of the cheese ball, it doesn't look as pretty anymore, does it? Okay. All right. So Miss Lori Adams is going to be up next. Lori is the FCS agent in Knott County, and she's got several ideas for you here today that are going to roll off what Nanette talked about with our lesson about not wasting and thinking about how we package particular things. Okay. So
So I'm going to be talking about gift wrapping in baskets. And baskets are a great thing to use because you can reuse baskets, again, for many things like we were talking about trying to save our gift wrapping. This is one way that you can do that. It's really important to pick something to put it in. It doesn't even have to be a basket. You can have some other item that you're going to put it in, but whatever you put it in has to be really sturdy. This is one that I've used the whole time, and it's come apart. It's not sturdy at all. So you want to make sure that whatever you're going to use, you're going to be able to be sturdy. If you'll look on page 17, I'm going to start on that page. There are some pictures on there because there's no way I have room on this table to put everything I need to put on here. These are just some ideas of some baskets that you can make with different kinds of items. The first ones at the top there use those popcorn baskets. Now that would be a great idea for like a movie night or a game night or something like that. You could put gift cards to the movies or something like that in there. The next one that is in the popcorn box is what you would probably call a candy bouquet. And basically to make one of those, you're going to get those floral foam bottoms. You're going to put that in the bottom of your basket, and then you're going to get the skewers, the wooden skewers, and put those down in there. And then you can take a glue gun and glue your candy onto that. And then, as you can see in the picture, you need to use like whatever you can to get in there. They use tissue paper and ribbon so that you can't see where the skewers are on there. The next idea is really interesting to me, using a fire pit and making a s'more basket. So if you were giving this as a gift, you could make it even more by adding that. And also, that's something that, unless you keep it in the box, is really hard to wrap anyways. The next thing is tumblers. Tumblers are all the craze right now. Use a tumbler for a basket. You can add all kinds of things into that. You can add candy. It shows socks on here, gift cards, and also, as you can see in the picture, you can also keep the top and the straw, just put it on the side so that you can have things in there. The next picture I just absolutely love is using they bought a slow cooker, and so they bought items that they could use with a slow cooker, including a cookbook. And you can find lots of cookbooks even at some of the dollar kinds of stores for real reasonable, and if you get a theme one, you can put it together with a basket idea for really inexpensive. And then the other one is a little apple cider basket to put things that you would use for that. So, like I said, I like to come up with themes. I've made my kids, we used to call them Santa buckets, and then they became Santa baskets. So they get baskets every year. And I sort of try to pick a theme early in the year, like January sometime, and all year I'm collecting things. And this is the basket, one of the baskets I'm doing this year. This is a lemon basket, so I went with lemons, and lemons are really popular right now. And then yellow, too. I used yellow within it also. So that is one way that you could put a theme one together. And then I have this little basket right here that's like a wire basket, and you can use that. And then I have different scents that are all the same scents for this particular, all the products for the scent. And if you want to do something like that, you need to be looking for that kind of stuff now, because if you wait until 2 weeks before the holidays come, there's not going to be anything in the stores, okay? So now is a good time to start getting all of those things. The next thing is, when you get things in there, what are you going to do with all the empty space you have at the bottom? And some people will take tissue paper and fold up, newspapers and fold up. What I have in the bottom of mine are grocery sacks, and they fit real good in there and give me the extra height that I need. And then I use some decorative shreds down in there just for decoration, and you can pick the color that you want. Like I have yellow in the yellow basket. I have brown in my garden hose basket, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So those are all some of the things that you can do. Make sure you put your taller things toward the back. That will help, and then fill in with like some of your shreds to help fill in the blank spots. And then also, after everything is in there, you can add a wrapping. These are the ones that are like shrink wrap. You can buy them; they're real inexpensive, and then you use a hairdryer to get them to go to the size of basket that you have. And then these are just extra ribbon I had at the office. And then whoever you give these to, this is fabric ribbon, so they can use it again, not like our bows and ribbons that we use, okay? So also you're giving gifts in a gift, because you could reuse this basket for so many different things. All right, so my craft idea that I have is this basket, that's the garden hose basket. So let's look on page 15 that starts the directions for that. And the garden hose basket, you need a garden hose. And the one that I use is the light duty 25 inch. But now listen to me. You could use any garden hose that you want. You could even recycle the garden hose that for some reason it isn't working right. Just make sure you clean it off really well before you use this. But this one is a brand new one that I have on here. Hey, you're giving another gift. Okay, they can actually use the garden hose later. And a lot of people have said, well, you know, holiday time, people don't really think about gardening. That's the summer. Believe me, if you have somebody that likes gardening, they think about gardening all the time. In January and February when it's snowing, they're looking through seed catalogs. So they do like them. On the picture, there's the one that starts, there is an arrow. And basically the bottom, you're going to take the spout side that's not like the faucet one. You're going to take that and you're going to wrap it around like a snake, coil it, and then on all four sides, every time you get two of those together, you're going to attach them with a zip tie, the heavy duty zip tie. And make sure you do get the heavy duty. Now, I was real particular. I wanted my color zip tie to match my garden hose. And they do have different color garden hose than just green. And they do have different color zip ties. The thing about it is you want to make sure when you're goring that you're goring in the same direction. Like I went from one side to the other. And the directions it talks about doing an X. So whatever you do, make sure you do it uniform all the way down. Another thing is, you know how when you pull your zip tie, it has that long end part? You want to make sure you don't cut those off until the very end, because you will want to tighten your basket as it goes along. And if you cut that off, you'll have to take the whole thing off and get a new zip tie. I found several times that I would have to take scissors and pull that zip tie out and then redo it. So you're basically shaping the basket. So once you get the bottom done, you're going to go to the top and you're going to keep rolling it up all the way until you get it how high you want it. And I tried to measure so that my handle had enough room to go all the way to the other side. And I just wrapped it around and crisscrossed it and then put the zip ties on the top. And then the spout faucet thing is down at the bottom. Now, if you just want to cut, if your hose was too long, you could actually cut it. But remember, if it's brand new, they're not going to be able to reuse it. And then all the items that I got inside are gardening items that were on 70% off sale. So if you know what you're looking for, you can find things at really good prices. And I also like to try to get signs to use in my gift baskets. I really like that, different kinds of signs. So that's pretty much the basket. Now for my recipe is on page 18, and I'm going to keep this, what?
Page 12, 14, and 18, please.
Okay, well, we'll work on that. We'll go on. So on this one, I tried to keep with my basket theme. And so I ended up making a basket. This is an idea. You can make your own basket using the gift jars where you put the ingredients and this is a sugar cookie, and the other one is chocolate chip cookies. Although in mine I used some green and red M&Ms. You can use white chips, you can use butterscotch chips, whatever you want in that. So that was my basis for it. Now you are going to have to put on there what they're going to have to do with it. And the directions are in there, so you can put the directions on. Most of them you have to add butter, vanilla, that's not in there. Then I also in this kit, this is like a little kit, I added some cookie cutters. And remember, you don't have to keep things that you put in a basket in their original container. If they don't fit right, you can take them out. And then I also have several things of cookie icing in here so that you could do the whole thing. I have a sign. Remember I told you I like signs. And then this is my idea for the sprinkles. I have ornaments, and I have all my sprinkles in the ornaments. I also have a spatula in here that you could use. Anything that you would use in here. And then in this has a top, and you can actually store your cookies in that also. So, I don't think I talked to you about the glue, keeping things standing where they're supposed to be. That's the only thing I forgot. Sometimes they move around a lot, and to get them not to move around, you can use like glue dots, is what they call them. Well, I found these. These are balloon glue, and they're little dots, and they use them for like the balloon arches, and you can find them at one of those dollar stores, and they're real inexpensive, and they work really good to hold the things in your basket together. And then also in your jars, I like to add some little decoration, like little ornaments. You can find lots of those little ornaments for real cheap to add on. So that's all that I have, and now we're going to have Lakin Campbell, and she's from Lee County.
Hey everyone, how are you guys today? Like Lori said, my name is Lakin Campbell. I'm the FCS agent in Lee County. So if you've been with us before the past few years, I usually come in with something a little tedious. There was the wine cork era, like 3 years in a row. Last year was the pine cone era. So this year I've shifted gears a little bit. But if you want to flip through your pages, we're going to start with my recipe. I want it to be nice and warm for you. It is a slow cooker buffalo chicken dip. And I will say, buffalo chicken dip is one of my favorite meals for any event. I've got a really good friend that makes it every time that she comes over. And she broke her arm this year for my birthday. And here she come in with her little buffalo chicken dip so I could have it for my birthday. You know you've got a good friend if that's the case. But we've made it a little bit easier. So all you do is get your ingredients and you put it all in the slow cooker. So we've got canned chicken. Now, if you do not like canned chicken, you're like my mother and can pick it out of anything. She can taste it, it's canned chicken no matter what. But you could just shred your own chicken, or you could use some rotisserie chicken and put that in there as well. There's a ranch dressing in there. We also have some shredded cheese and some cream cheese in there, softened of course, and then the buffalo sauce that's in there. Everyone has their own brand that they may like. Some are a little bit spicier than others, so if you like a little more of a spice, you may either want to put a little bit more in there or kick it up a notch and go past the mild and make a little bit of a hotter buffalo sauce. I made it mild for you guys today, but I like mine a little bit spicier, so usually I add a little bit more when I'm making it at home. So you could also use a chip. You could use, that's what I've got for you today. You could use crackers, pretzels, whatever you like. Eat it with a spoon, I mean, if you want to. But it's one of my favorite recipes. So this is something that I really enjoy, and I hope you guys liked it today too. So going back to our little decorations that we've got here today. So like I said, I've shifted gears. We are no longer in the pine cone era. I've shifted to more of an outdoorsy theme. So what I've got for you is a snowman ornament here. If I can get it off the tree. So I just ordered a bunch of bobbers in bulk. And honestly, 2 big variety packs, done everything here. And I got 3 different size bobbers, and I already had the fishing line, and I had the paint pens, and I had the pipe cleaner. So all I did was make 3 loops with the fishing line, 1 large one and 2 small ones, and then just attach the small ones to each other like you would attaching a bobber to the fishing line. Secured them with glue in case they came loose. Then when I attached the top one, I made sure that I snuck it through the pipe cleaner so I could have a loop to put it on the tree with, and then made my little dots on there, made my face, and secured everything with glue, and it was very easy. I know I had a homemaker in Lee County say that she was going to do this with her grandchildren, and they were going to give it to their cousins as gifts because they all really like to fish. So the next one is the Papa's Keeper ornament. So I already had the wooden discs at my office. They came in a variety pack where there's like Christmas trees, there's the snowmen, but there's just a little ornament in there, and I took that out and I painted the bottom red, the top white, and then the top of it red. I used some tape to make a sharp line, and then I wrote on there. Now, my handwriting is not the best, but you could also use stencils, stickers, or something like that, and you could change it from Papa's Keepers to Grandma's Keepers to Daddy's Keepers to Mommy's, whatever you would like. And I added some jute to the top. Then I added some jute over here to put the little wooden fish on, and then wrote names on there. The wooden fish, be careful when you're ordering them, because I ordered the ones with no holes in them, so I had to use my little crafting drill and put some holes in it myself. And then I added this itty bitty tiny bobber. It's hard to see. That was in the variety pack. But I've laughed when I was saying some of this to the other counties, is I don't know what use that is actually for, because if you're fishing with that, it's going under every time. So that is false. A lady did tell me she uses them for earrings. She makes earrings, and that's what she wears when she goes fishing. I was like, well, that's a cute idea. Maybe next year. And then, of course, I could not leave you guys with doing something not tedious. So, of course I had to do something. This is the wreath that I've got here. So I started and I didn't have a frame for the wreath, so I made my own. And I used cardboard and just cut a circle and then cut a smaller circle, made it the size that I wanted, then wrapped it in netting. Okay, so I wanted the glue to be able to hold on to not only the cardboard, but also something else to make it a little bit more flexible in case I wanted more glue to be on there. Then I wrapped and made a loop so I could have something to hang it with, and it also helped me guide where the top and the bottom was going to be. So I went around and I glued all of the large bobbers on there first to kind of get an idea, and then there was maybe 6 different sizes of bobbers in that variety pack, and I just went around and started kind of slowly adding them in according to size. So I started with the largest and ended with the smallest. So I ordered 2 of those variety packs, and then I used almost one whole one, and then I went in and got some of the really tiny ones out of the other bag so I could fill in the little spots. Then I also, just to kind of add a few little things in there, I added some more netting around and put them in some of the holes that kind of had some gaps in there. I added some burlap. I kind of pulled some of the strings out to kind of make it look more like a net. In hindsight, I should have bought a net, but this worked just as well, I suppose. It's held up well for this to have went to 8 counties. I have not glued a single bobber back. I've carried this hot glue gun with me and not had to use it, which is great. But I also added a few fishing lures on there, and I have poked myself every single time. I wish I had taken them suckers off of there, but you live and you learn, I guess. It actually got stuck to me in Breathitt County when I was up teaching, so I'm trying to be very careful and not hold this to me. And someone did suggest if you do put the hooks on there, I think we were in Leslie County, and they mentioned putting a little bit of hot glue on the hook so if you didn't want to take them off, just kind of dabbing a little bit of hot glue on there. And someone also suggested to put a picture in the middle of it. I thought that was a neat idea. And I said put a sign on there if you want to make it more festive for the holidays, or something interchangeable if you want to put something on there for the holidays. Take it off so you could have it year round. And I talked about how you could have a big plastic hook to kind of put something on there more towards fishing. And I thought those were really, really neat tips on there. So you can really just kind of make what you want on there. Add small ornaments and replace some of the bobbers out and put little ornaments to make it a little more festive. But yeah, do you guys have any questions or anything for me? All right. Next up we have Miss Vicki Boggs in Leslie County.
Thank you, ma'am. Hi, everyone. I'm Vicki Boggs over in Leslie County, and I guess this mic is on. Okay, so we'll get started with the 2 craft items that I've got to share with you. We're on page 25. So if you need to follow along in your book, first of all, I've got some snowy jars that I made out of some mason jars. So how many of y'all have a mason jar sitting around? We all do, don't we? So I can't quite get away from mason jars when I'm crafting. They're so handy and they're so versatile. So this year, I took the jars, and you can choose any size that you want to complement whatever theme you're doing or whatever you have to decorate. But I've got 3 different sizes, and so first thing that I've done, following the little supplies list that's in your book, I took some glue, and I used tacky glue. You could use Elmer's school glue. You could use all different kinds of school glue, Mod Podge glue, just about any kind of glue. But the main thing to remember on your glue is to not spread it too thick on your jar. I actually just took my finger and just coated the side of the jar with the glue. And then I took the jar after placing about a cup of Epsom salts. Now, how many of y'all have some Epsom salts sitting around? You should be doing a foot soak, right? It's been in your closet for how long? Oh no. Maybe you should throw it away. It's too old. But no, stop. You can use it for a craft. And so that's what I used to make the jars really terrifically snowy looking. And they've traveled around now. This is our final road show. So this is stop number 8. And they're still coated pretty good. And they've got their little sparkle. So just roll the jar around in the Epsom salt and glitter mix, and it's going to stick to the sides of the jar. You'll want to let it sit overnight probably to get nice and dry. And then you can begin the decorations. So the decorations I chose, kind of like a little country theme of jute. Nothing fancy, but you could make this any way you wanted it. You could put sparkly ribbon on it. You could put red checkered ribbon, blue. The sky would be the limit on what you could change this up to be. But I did have some ribbon that looked a little jute-like that I put around some of the jars. And then I took my jute and tied some little bows, and so I just applied those with the hot glue. So hot glue is wonderful. I know how many of y'all have worked with hot glue. Almost all of us have had to at times for this or that. So just applying these with your hot glue. The little embellishments are a little different on each jar. This one was just a little part of a little Christmas tree sprig that I had left. You could actually use something live. If you've got some evergreens outside, or maybe a holly tree that you wanted to accent with, you could just glue that on, okay? Also, I picked up some little, I'll call them sprigs, different colors. They're a little sparkly. I wanted them to match the little tree forest that I have. So I've got the little aqua blue and the gold to accent the little gold bells. And then the last thing that I'd done was put a little set of lights into the jar. And they're battery operated. You could use a simple tea light in there. But I did choose the ones that had a few on the string so I could bring the light to the outside of the jar too. So that added a little bit of an extra sparkle, that little extra light. And these are on a 6-hour timer, so you just turn them on and they cycle on and off, so you wouldn't have to bother yourself with turning it on and off if you were going to leave them on for the holidays. So the jar lids, the little one, I just simply have a little jar lid on there. You could put a ring band on it if you like and attach it more permanently. You could hot glue it on. These others, I picked up some little wooden jar lids, and they kind of stick down in there, seal it up, and make it easy to transport, and then your lights are kind of in there. Okay, so that's the snowy jars. And then next we have our little forest here of yarn-wrapped trees. Again, a tree for Christmas is perfect, isn't it? We've got so many different kinds of trees up here. How many of you all were at the area the homemaker extension meeting here? Okay, so have you seen these trees once before maybe? Anyone think they might recognize these? Okay, so these were a cultural arts entry from one of our homemaker ladies over in Leslie County. And she made a whole forest of trees. And so she let me carry the trees around to be a part of our road show this year. She started with a little styrofoam cone, and you can see she's made all sizes, but this little one is probably the quickest and easiest because of its size. So starting with a little styrofoam cone that you can pick up at different spots, a discount store, a dollar store, different kinds of places, mail order, you could get these about any place. She estimated maybe she has $6 to $8 in the small one. She picked up the chenille yarn. You could use yarn that you have on hand. It wouldn't have to be the bulky yarn, but she chose the bulky looking. And so she started at the base. She first of all signed her name on the bottom. So you might want to do that and put a date on it. So, 10 years from now, if someone finds this, they're going to say, hey, Lisa made that. I see her name. And there's the date. That's when she made it. So that kind of gives things a little bit more meaning to us sometimes. So after she put her yarn on, now the yarn can go on a couple of ways. On a styrofoam cone, you could actually use hot glue, but she chose to use straight pins. So she used lots of straight pins. I don't know how many, but it was a lot. And so she just pinned every little piece of yarn in and wrapped it all the way up to the top until she couldn't wrap anymore. And so at the top, she had put a little nail hole to put her little star in there. And you could certainly put a ribbon bow. You could put a metal star, a wooden star. You could make it look any way you wanted to. But that little, it's kind of a plastic resin, crystal-looking star really looks well with the colors that she chose to accent the tree. So the last thing she done was to add the jingle bells. So she took her handy-dandy glue gun and put 24 bells on this little tree. So I'm not counting the other bells on the other sizes, but this is definitely a jingle bell forest for sure, along with the yarn that's wrapped around it. Okay, so that's our craft items from Leslie County. We do have a recipe to share with you. You've received your sample of pumpkin gingerbread. How many of y'all like bread? We love to bake bread. I love to eat bread. This is one of our family favorites, the pumpkin gingerbread. It's more than just pumpkin. It has got the ginger in it as well. So the ginger flavor is a flavor kind of notable for the holidays. So it's got that little ginger taste. A basic bread that bakes about an hour. 2 9x5 loaves is a traditional way to bake it. You could certainly use specialty pans. You could use the little bundt pans. I know there's a lot of crock pans out there. The little individual loaf pans for gifting. So a perfect thing to do at the holidays. Maybe a little faster than cookies, maybe not. But it takes about an hour to bake, and it serves different amounts depending on how you slice it. So of course today you only got a sample, but you would get anywhere from 12 to 16 slices out of one loaf, and just depending on how thick or thin that you sliced it. Okay. So, any questions?
I know this is crazy.
No.
I missed the very beginning. You said on your lights, your jar lights.
Yes.
You put the glue on the outside or the inside?
Well, the lights are on the inside, but I brought a few to the outside just to decorate on the little piece of evergreen and the little embellishments.
No, I meant the glue.
Oh, the glue. Excuse me. On the tree?
No, on the jar.
On the jar. Okay, the glue I did put on the outside of the jar. I think I got it. Okay. Yeah, on the outside, and then you just roll it around in like a paper plate that you can throw away, and it coats it. Okay. Anything else?
Where'd you get your wooden ball lids?
The wooden ball lids actually came from a big discount store. Most every town has one. The big W store. You might find them at a vendor's mall. You might find them in a craft basket. I've had these for a few years, so it's an item that I'm not sure if they're in demand or if they're plentiful. I wouldn't know what the market is for it today, but I bet you could find them.
They're by the canning supplies. I've seen them.
Okay, so they are still by the canning supplies. Got you. Okay. Anything else?
Where'd you find your stars at?
The stars actually came from the nice shipping place that you can order from. There's a lot of online shipping spots that has pretty quick delivery, so I think that's where they came from. Yes, I think so. Okay, anything else? All righty. Thank you all, and next up is Nanette.
Thank you, Vicki. So my holiday ideas start on page 29, and the first one on the book are the gingerbread Christmas tree cones. And as you see, they come in different sizes, but what you would need for the trees to make these, you would need a paper cone, and this is the paper ones that are hollow, but they're not the styrofoam, they are paper. You probably could make your own if you were real crafty, but I went ahead and bought these. I have stickers. These are snowflake glitter stickers that I bought. And then paint, and this is called worn penny. That's the color of it, and it's like a copper color. And then I did order these online. They're little peppermint candies, and they are plastic. They're not edible. You could use the edible ones if you wanted to do that, but it would be a little sticky. But these do come apart if you want white or red separate. They do come apart. And then large rickrack, which is the large type of rickrack, and rickrack is getting to be coming back in style again for some reason. And just some red and white buffalo checked ribbon that's about almost an inch wide. I think it's 7/8 of an inch. And then for the ribbon, I did use the little rickrack just to tie the bow. But what you would do is go ahead and paint your cone, let it completely dry. And as you can tell, these two cones are different colors. And the reason for this one was just painted the copper penny or the worn penny directly onto the cone. This cone right here was actually painted like a brown color before we put the coat of the worn penny on there, and the reason for that, it was painted and decorated. I did not like the way it looked, so I took everything off and put the worn penny coat on it instead of the brown. So that's what made it two different colors. But after you go ahead and paint and let that dry, I took the rickrack and I took a straight pin and I pinned the rickrack at the top. I went ahead and started wrapping the rickrack all the way down in a diagonal and pinned it in the middle and then at the end, and got it spaced according to how I liked it and the way I liked the way it looked. And after I got it spaced correctly, I went ahead and used hot glue and glued it in the three places where the pins were at. So the whole entire rickrack is not glued on there. So after you do the gluing of the rickrack, I took the little peppermint candies and done the same thing. Went around in a diagonal and just glued them on with hot glue, and then just filled in the spaces with the peel and stick snowflake stickers. And but you can decorate this in many different ways. We did put the ribbon at the bottom. You don't have to. You could paint it, because on this one we did paint the bottom instead of putting ribbon on. You can make a bow, and I made a very, very simple bow, and I don't see my sample one. But what I done, I took the ribbon and the rickrack and laid the rickrack on top of the ribbon and just made a large loop several times to where I made two separate loops on each side. After I got that wrapped around, I did leave two edges hanging for the tail of it. But I took the small rickrack, this right here, and when I pinched the middle of it together, I used the small rickrack just to tie it, to hold it in place, and then just glued it on top. I have a smaller bow made for this one, but I must have left it somewhere. But I was just showing that you could put a ribbon on it. You don't have to. If you have like a little wooden gingerbread man that you wanted to glue on to the top, you could do that. And there's all kinds of different ways that you can decorate them. I just wanted them pretty simple. But You can do table arrangements in different sizes because these do come in many different sizes. If you just wanted to do one size, you can do one size and then you can put it onto a candle holder or, some type of pedestal to do them at different heights. But they are just they're not going to be able to go outside, but they are very easy and quick to make. The hardest part is just getting the paint painted on there, but with the paint, remember to use a sponge paintbrush. If you use a bristle brush, it will leave streaks. The sponge paintbrush does not. If you don't have a sponge paintbrush, but you have a makeup sponge, you can use a makeup sponge. Just anything that's a spongy that will hold the paint, and you can paint with that. So that was adding the decorations took maybe 5 minutes. It didn't take very long at all. So the next holiday ideal are the glass jar and the ornament. And what you do, you have to have glass. These are glass ornaments, and this is a glass jar. And this jar I did have here at the office. We did some type of little craft thing once before with the little jars, and got them at the store at the bottom of the hill, to where you could just pay a little bit for them and do all kinds of stuff with them. This right here did come from a store in Pikeville, and there were 4 in a box, and I got them. All of this was on half off. So just when the Christmas stuff goes on sale, I went and got the stuff to buy to make. But you just need the glass balls, glass jar, whatever you want to decorate. You need paint. And like I said, I used the worn penny in this, and I bought 3 bottles of this worn penny, this size right here, and I still have 1 bottle left after making all of this, and there was 4 of these ornaments, this jar, and then these 2 right here, and still I think there was some left in another bottle too, so a little bit of paint goes a long way. But take the paint and take off the lid, pour some paint into the glass ornament or the glass jar, and then once you get the paint in there, you're going to swirl it around to where the whole thing is coated. And if you look at this one did not get completely coated, but there's no problem. I just left it like that. After it dries, you could put a little bit more paint in there, swirl it around, turn it upside down, and let it drain again, and it covers it all. So it's not no big deal. But after you put the paint in there, you do want to turn it upside down so the paint can drain. So you want to put it into a plastic cup like the punch cups you all have. You can put it on that because that paint that drips out can be reused, so it won't go to waste. On this one right here, it is a little more difficult to turn it upside down because it does have a large opening. So what we just swirled it around, held it like this, and let it drip out for a couple minutes just to where we got as much out as we could. And then if you look in the bottom, there is some that has pulled on the bottom that we didn't get completely out. But if you have a large enough cup that you can just put that on there, you can turn it upside down like that. You just don't want it to put it on a flat surface, because when you put it on a flat surface and when you lift it up, you're going to have a pile of paint, and then it's going to be all over the rim of your jar. So after that, you let the paint inside dry, and then if you have paint markers, paint pens, you can use that to draw on the face. If you don't, just need a small bristle brush, or you can use a vinyl cutting machine to put a face on there. So it's, you have several different ways that you can do that. But we just drawed rickrack around the top edge and on the ornament just in the front there, and then drawed some eyes on there with black paint and put a little white in there for the glare of it, a red nose, and then a mouth with some rosy cheeks. And that's just all you have to do. But like I said, if you're not very artistic, I did not do this, Mitch did, because I cannot draw a stick man. So he drew this on there for me. But like I said, if you don't have a Mitch to do it, or if you're not able to do it and you have a cutting machine, you can do that. Or you might even be able to find a template online to where you can print it and then use it as a template. So those were up there were very quick and simple to do. And the last one I have are the terracotta pot gingerbread men. And these are in 2 different sizes. I think this is a 6-inch and a 10-inch. And it's just the pot. I should have done these 2, one way and one another way, and I didn't. I done them both as candy jars, And if you see, this is a candy jar with a candle in the middle, but if you did not want to use it as a candy jar, you could get you a little decorative wreath with a candle in the middle and not use it as a candy dish. Or if you had one of those large 3 or 4 wick candles, you could just sit it on top and let it fill up the whole entire tray. But what you would do is take the paint brush and draw a little rickrack, paint a little rickrack around the tray bottom, and then the same thing around the top part of the pot. You're going to paint the rickrack and then do the little face again.
Just do the face on.
He done the faces on both of these. I did not paint the terracotta pots. I said this right here is close enough to the color. There's no sense in painting them. But if you wanted to, you could paint them. This is what I should have done. I should have done one like this with the tray on top. Should have done the other one like this with the face, you know, upside down. And you could have used this like if you had a Christmas cactus or a succulent that you wanted to plant, you could have that as a decoration with your live plant. So you can do it either way, you know, upside down or right side up. And I should have done one in each way, but I did not. But this right here was very quick and easy to do. Just put you some candy on top and you have a little decoration. Now, if you wanted to use these outside after you paint them, you could put on a clear coat to seal it up and use it outside. If you wanted to paint the pot if you got tired of having it decorated as a gingerbread man, you could paint the pot and use it for anything outside. So this right here is something that you can use no matter if you're tired of it or not. And then these also come in many different sizes, as you will see with Rosa. You even have little mini ones that you can make. And you can make the little mini ones and make an ornament out of it if you wanted to. They are passing around my recipe, and I kept with the theme of gingerbread. This is a gingerbread truffle, and it is a cheater truffle. I did not make gingerbread. This is using ginger snaps. So I used the off-brand. I did not buy a brand name of ginger snaps. Can't get it out. And it's a 12-ounce box. I put it into a food processor and crushed up the ginger snaps, put that crushed up ginger snaps into a mixing bowl, and add a half a teaspoon of pure vanilla and 1 block of softened cream cheese. And you mix that up until it's completely incorporated. Now this is where I done it different than the recipe said. The recipe said to take the bowl and put the bowl of dough into the refrigerator and chill it. I did not do that. I took a scoop, scooped out my truffles, rolled them in my hands, put them on a parchment covered tray, then put the truffles in the refrigerator and let them chill that way. So I let them chill for about 30 to 45 minutes. Pull them out, and I did not make these. Mitch made these. I was not here this week to make them, so he did make these. I made the ones last week. After you pull them out of the refrigerator, I done batches of 3. And if you look, you should be able to see you got edible gingerbread men on your truffle. And that's a sprinkle that I had ordered that is a little gingerbread man. So after I pulled them out of the refrigerator, I had the chocolate or the almond bark melted in the microwave. Make sure you use a large glass bowl. Do not use plastic. Do not use a little small glass bowl, but use a large glass bowl to where you're able to dip your truffles down in, because if you do it in too small of a glass jar, then when you dip it, the almond bark is going to overflow. So just make sure that you have it in a good size bowl. So I done these in batches of 3. I put a toothpick in 3 of them, dipped, and then I tapped the toothpick on the side of the glass bowl to get the excess chocolate off. Get as much off as you can. And then I laid it onto the parchment paper, done the other 2, and then I took the toothpick, twisted it and pulled it straight up. And once I done that, I got the sprinkles and sprinkled a little bit of the sprinkle on there while the almond bark was still soft. If you do too many at one time, the almond bark will get hard and the sprinkles will not adhere to the chocolate. So just make sure that you do them in small batches at a time to get the sprinkles. You don't have to use gingerbread men as the sprinkles. You don't even have to use sprinkles if you don't want to, but you can use many different colors of sprinkles. But if you don't want to, just take a fork, put your fork in the excess chocolate, and then drizzle over top just to cover the little toothpick hole. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, so next up is Rosa Smith from Owsley County.
Hello, everybody. So like she said, my name is Rosa Smith, and I'm from Owsley County. I'm the FCS agent there. And this year, I decided to go with a gnome theme, so all my crafts and my recipe is all gnomes. To start off, I have these gnome slippers, very simple to make. You can get just standard house slippers at pretty much any store, right? These slippers did come with the bow attached up here, but we did remove it and then later decided to add it back in. And then the only other things you need is a decorative ribbon, hot glue, and a wooden bead for the nose. So you start by just folding in the heel of the slipper to create the beard. And then you're going to take the edges here and just kind of fold up to create a straight line. And then hot glue that decorative ribbon around to cover that up. That way you're kind of separating his hat from his beard. And then we just hot glued a little wooden bead on the inside there, just right underneath where his hat would hit. And then we added in our little bow. These are very cute as like curtain holders. I've seen pictures of people using them in their restrooms to hold back the shower curtains. You would just have to create a little fastener on the back to do that. And then the next craft is this light up gnome. He is made with a glass jar underneath, a standard size mop replacement head, a Santa hat, cotton, LED lights, of course we use some hot glue, and then an ornament ball of whatever color or design that you want to use. So you start by taking the standardized mop head and placing it on the bottom of the jar, so your opening is going to be end up on the bottom down here. That way you can put your lights in. And then once you've got that secured to the bottom of the jar, you just take and untwine all those strings on the mop head to create a fuller looking beard for him. Then you're going to stuff the Santa hat with cotton just to give it a little more fuller look and make it stand up. You could use other materials such as bags or newspapers, things like that. This is an adult size Santa hat. It was very tricky to get it to stay on the small jar size here, so I would recommend you size down on that, maybe with the child size hat. But once you've got your mop head in place and your Santa hat all stuffed up, then you're just going to secure that to the top of the jar. I did hot glue back here, and it would have been better to sew it, but it's held this whole time, so we're doing good. If you want the folded over top, you would just put a little hot glue there on the end of the hat and kind of pinch it down and hold it until it dries. And then you're going to put your ornament ball. Just kind of part the mop head strands there just to give a little more depth to it, and then hot glue your ornament in there. Place your lights in, and he's good to go. So very simple. And then the last craft I have are these terracotta gnome ornaments. You could use them as garland, hang them on cabinets, pretty much anything. They don't have to be a holiday or a winter holiday craft. You could do these for any holiday, fall, do different seasons. Just however, that all depends on however you wanted to paint your terracotta pot and what kind of fabric back here that you wanted to use. So for this craft, you need a 2.1 inch terracotta pot, a 2-inch foam ball, some decorative fabric, some fur fabric, a wooden bead, hot glue, of course, and then some type of string. I did use the jute string for mine. I'll show you another one too. But you're going to start out by painting your pot if that's what the design you want to go. I did not paint this one. To me, he feels a little bland. He needs a little color up there to me. But so I did decide to paint them. If you want to paint the wooden beads for the nose, then go ahead and get all your painting out of the way. That way that's drying as you work with the rest of the craft. So then you're going to take the 2-inch foam ball and wrap it with your fabric. I secured mine with those little rubber band hair ties. It was just easier for me and held it better in place. And then you're going to take your fur fabric, and when you're cutting fur fabric, you want to be very careful not to cut the fur part of it. So you want to kind of separate that just so you're cutting that backing. So once that's all on there, then you're going to just hot glue it around. It's a little bit about halfway, maybe a little bit less than that, onto your foam ball, and get your what will be your beard in place. And then you're going to take the jute string and string that through the little hole on your terracotta pot, and then secure that with extra hot glue on the inside just so it doesn't slip out on you. Once that is in place, then you're going to put hot glue around the rim of your terracotta pot on the inside and just place it right down on the 2-inch foam ball, and then that kind of gives you your gnome. And then just part the hair and put your little wooden bead in there again for his little nose. And then the recipe I had is bugle gnomes. They're very simple. They are made using 3 ingredients. You have bugle chips, the white almond chocolate bark, and either mini M&Ms or little circle sprinkles. Any of that will work. Just lay out your parchment paper. Dip the bugle down into your melted almond bark. Just melting the chocolate right by the package says. I always have to use stovetop. I can't use the microwave to melt mine. It always ends up burning, so I use stovetop. Dip your bugle down in there, and then place that little sprinkle on there for his nose, and you're good to go. So, very simple. Does anybody have any questions? All right, next up we have Kelsey Sebastian from Perry County.
Okay, I'm back. So sorry, you have to look at me twice today. Okay, so for those of you who have been here before when I have come, we know that I am not great with the art projects, okay? This is not my cup of tea. However, when we do these, I always have a lot of fun, and I like to do things that are simple and that anyone can do, okay? So the first one are going to be the air clay ornaments, and they will be in your booklet. How many of you over the years have made the salt dough ornaments? Okay, this is a much easier version of that because you are not mixing, you are not baking, you are buying pre-made clay that comes in several different colors. So you can see up here I use the terracotta color and the white color as well, just to show you what both of them looked like. So that's going to be the first thing you're going to need. And then the second thing you'll need are your cookie molds. Now, I got the wooden cookie molds. However, some of you may have your own in storage, okay? You don't want a regular cutter that's just going to do the outside portion. You want an actual mold that has indentions. So my mom has well, I'm going to use the word vintage, set that are actually Tupperware brand that are red plastic, and they are solid on the back and have a little tiny handle, but when you turn the cutter around, it has a nice pattern and indentation on the inside. So if you have anything like that in your cookie cutter stash, those will work for this type of project. So other than those two main things you also need either wax paper or parchment paper to lay these on to dry. You will need a straw or a toothpick, You need something with a flat edge. And then that's really basically all you need. So you will start with a small ball of the clay in your hand, and once you kind of pat that out into your mold, you will use the flat edge to scrape down and make sure you get it into all the crevices. There is kind of a gentle point in the middle. You don't want to press too hard because then it'll be harder when you need to loosen these out. But you also want to make sure that you get the really intricate pattern there. So just beware. Now, if you have pressed it and whenever you go to turn it out onto your parchment paper, it does not want to come loose. The other thing that's going to be on that list is probably either a knife or a toothpick, and you can go right around the edge of the mold, okay, and just kind of tap it in, just loosen around the edge to get that clay loose. And once you're able to free them from that and you lay them on your parchment, you're going to take the end of that straw so that you can poke your hole wherever you want in your ornament, however you want it to hang, okay. The straw will give you a perfectly round hole. If you do not have a straw, you can use a toothpick. You're just going to want to keep going around and around until you get a nice spot there, because you want to make sure you can get your ribbon through, okay? So you're going to let them dry for 24 hours. About halfway through, you want to turn them over so the back side of that ornament can dry out as well. Now, if you want to get more detailed and technical, the white ones you can paint if you want, and then you can personalize it however you want. The terracotta ones are not going to do very well with colored paint. However, if you want them to look a little more vintage or antiqued, you could mix a little baking soda and water and then dab that on, and it'll really get into all of those crevices that the mold has made. So again, whatever your preference is, and then you can add whatever kind of ribbon you want. This up here, I've got 3 different kinds that I just pulled out of storage just to show you the different options. So there's like a silk one, there's a glitter one, there's velvet, so whatever your heart loves, okay? Now these, like I said, are great for kids because no oven, they can use their hands, and then, you know, you have something homemade without a whole lot of mess. Okay, so that is the first one. The second one are going to be the ornament topiary trees. Okay, and so some of the things you'll need for this one is some type of vessel, and you'll notice you can use anything you want. So this one, the traditional red and greens and golds, is actually on a cake stand. Okay, the one on the right is in a planter, vase, whatever you want to call it. This one's thrifted for 50 cents. So again, don't spend anything. I'm sure you have something in the cabinet that's not getting used on a regular basis. Okay, other things you'll need are either a styrofoam or floral foam tree, okay, which is what's in the center of both of these, and you'll see a picture of it in your booklet, okay. And depending on what vessel you're using, you may have to cut your tree foam to fit into the vessel, or you may actually need to stuff some paper to help hold it in, depending on what size the form is to the vessel. So either way, the first thing you'll want to do is put a little dab of hot glue on the bottom of that tree form to keep this from moving around, okay? And then again, I'm sure we all have a handy dandy hot glue gun at home, okay? That is what works the best for this. I tried something else and it did not work very well. So don't stray from the original hot glue. Now you will want multiple sizes of your ornaments, okay? And don't feel like you need to run out and buy ornaments. We've talked about not wasting things. How many of you have boxes of ornaments in the closet that you don't use on your regular tree anymore, right? Because we get sick of looking at the same colors every year, right? And so we change things out. So remember, you can take those out and use them for other things. So this has 3 different sizes of ornaments, and so what I did was start with the larger ones at the bottom of each of the trees, okay, because that gave me a nice base to build from. And then once I placed my larger ones, the last large one I placed was on the top of the tree. And with the end cap where the hook would typically go, I pulled that plastic piece off and I twisted it down in the top of the tree form and put a little hot glue underneath it before I stuck that ornament back in there, just to make sure that one was nice and sturdy. Okay, and then once the large ones were placed, I went back in with my smaller sizes to fill in some of the gaps. Once you get those glued on, again, there will still be gaps you will still be able to see in, which is when our garland comes into play, okay? So one of the original things I read talked about winding it around. That did not work for me. What I found that worked best was actually taking the garland and cutting it at about 1 to 2 inch pieces, okay? And then once I had those in place, I was able to fold it over so it kind of looked like a hook once I had cut it, and put the remaining hot glue on the end, and then it was very easy to manipulate right back in any of the gaps that I needed it in, okay? Now, I used traditional green because I wanted it to look like a traditional tree. However, there are so many different colors and glitter ones and all these different types of the cheap garland they have now. However, you may also have a box of that at home in your closet that you are not using anymore. So just remember, there are good ways to reuse things, whether it's from the vessel or the old ornaments or the old garland. And I did go around the base on these to make sure that it really filled in. And, you know, even though we know it's a cake stand, it looks pretty. And I just wanted to make sure that it looked really natural compared to before I put those in there. You could see the bottom of the base. So just beware, a little bit more is a good thing. Okay? All right. So that is it for the art portion. Now, the recipe you should have in your booklet, and I think they passed it out already, is actually a fruit cake cookie. These do have pecans in them, so if anybody has a nut allergy, please do not eat these. How many of you like a traditional fruit cake at the holidays? Okay, that's a lot of people. I do not love a traditional fruit cake because usually they are soaked in rum or brandy, and I think that gives them a really strong flavor. However, this is my great aunt's recipe, and she makes these and brings them for Christmas. And so it has a very traditional cookie base: brown sugar, shortening, cream together. We've got our flour mixture, soda, and then you've got egg, vanilla. The one thing that is in this that's not in a typical cookie is it actually has buttermilk in it, which keeps it very moist. Okay, so I'll alternate that flour and buttermilk mixture as I'm adding it into the shortening. And then I go in with all of the good stuff, okay, which is your coconut, your pecans, your candied cherries, and then your chopped dates. Now, some of you may not like some of those particular things, so you could always adjust that if you don't. But it has a nice variety of things in it. So once you have that scooped out, I will say for the purpose of the roadshow, I used a cookie scoop so that these were all very similar sized. She actually drops hers just by the spoonful because she wants it to be nice and chunky, just like the picture she sent me. She says that she also sometimes will chop a little extra on the side and then roll the top of it in there. Again, I went the super easy way and just scooped it so that they were all uniform. They bake at 350 for about 10 minutes. Again, you all know your own ovens better than I would, so it may take a little longer, it may take a little less. So just be careful with that. Okay, any questions? Okay, I'm going to turn, oh yes.
You use the commercial fruitcake mix stuff.
Okay, so I could not find that when we went to the grocery to get supplies. Typically they have it out already in the baking section. I could not find it, so I had to buy the red candied cherries and the green candied cherries separate and dice those up, okay? It would have been better if I'd found it pre-chopped. It would have saved me an extra step. But I was chopping the dates anyway, so might as well. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Miss Nanette.
Just want to say thank you all for coming today to the University of Kentucky Cooperative Extension 2024 Quicksand Area Roadshow. We look forward to this program every year and hope to see you next year.